Welcome to the session on Gathering Transition Resources with Susan Heckmatt from the Southeast RPDC and Dr. Jennifer Bumble from the University of Missouri at St. Louis. Our mission and vision is for you to develop and gather resources that are found in your area. The first portion will be on gathering your resources and where they are located. Once gathered, you could then turn them into a transition handbook, place them on your district's website page, or later convert them into a map on Google or another device for students or parents' use. Our agenda for the day includes who should be included on your list, what community resources should you gather, why should you gather the resources, and what are the relationships you have with them, and how you will use these resources with your students and or parents. Please begin thinking about this as it is step one. Think about the area in which you live and what are some places or resources that come to mind. This is just the beginning. Stephen Covey once said, "To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you are going so that you better understand where you are now and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction." What in this quote stands out to you? Transition Resource Network involves not only the school system, but also any other person, service provider, or agency, community resources, transportation, housing, etc., that individuals might need to access in order to provide a bridge to a successful outcome for young adults moving from high school to adulthood. When we think of systems, support, and network, it is important that we combine all three of these in order to build a system of support and a network for all of our students. However, students who have been identified as needing IDEA services, it is especially important that we build this network of support. We live in a mobile and dynamic society where people and circumstances change. As we build a support network for our students, we are able to share information within the system so that all can be served. Take a moment to begin making your list. Here are some examples. Did your list include any of these? How about these? Think about this question. Why should I gather resources and establish relationships with them? Here are just some reasons why we need to establish relationships with outside resources. Many of our parents do not know the services available to them outside of the school system. As students and parents move from one area to another, the services are not the same in each area. Parents need to know who to contact and have a point of contact. Sometimes our students need to build relationships with the agencies or community resources to have a sense of belonging to that community. IDEA also supports the student while in school until graduation or 21, but the student and parent needs to assume the future. So making that bridge between high school and adulthood is important. So how will I use these resources with my students and parents? Once you've created a transition resource network, it is a way to list and share with your students and families the community resources that are available. You might create a booklet in order to give to the student who has an IEP or a 504 plan. You might also create a web page on your school's website for parents and students and guardians to access. Once you have made your list of community resources, including agencies, now we need to focus on basic services. Electric company, transportation, internet and cable providers, health department, Social Security, telephone service providers, recreation and leisure services, Meals on Wheels, hospitals, centers for independent living. You can now begin to collect the material for your district's website and/or handbook and begin to put these together in order to give to parents and students. Once you have gathered all your information for either a handbook or for your school's webpage, you may also consider another way of utilizing that material, and that is to create visual maps. In the next portion, you will learn how to create a visual map using the resources you have gathered from Dr. Jennifer Bumble.
All right, so welcome. My name is Jen Bumble. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and so excited to walk you through a couple of strategies around creating visual transition maps or community resource maps, and then how you can share those with the families and students that you serve. So there's really 5 basic steps. So the first is to set aside 1 to 2 hours per week, which I know is easier said than done, right? We all have a lot on our plate, but we do make time for what we prioritize. So whether that is 30 minutes for you a week or a month, make sure to set time where you're working towards developing these relationships and developing these maps either alone or with your colleagues. It's really important to set aside and protect that time. Second is to make a list of all of the potential partners in your community. So again, either alone or as part of a team, you want to start working through all the people you've collaborated with in the past, and then potential partners that could really work well to support your district or support the students and families that you serve. Now, once you have that whole list, you can start to visually map out your network kind of as a brainstorm. I'll show you a couple different ways to do that. And then you want to start to set small, measurable goals. So once you can see what your network looks like, it's really easy to then start identifying where the gaps are, right? And so you want to start to set goals around who you might add to that network, who you might build deeper relationships with in that network to really improve outcomes for your students. And then once you use one of these brainstorm strategies to visually look at your network, you want to figure out a way how you can take that and put it into a product that you might be able to share with families or students or colleagues. So I'm going to talk to you first about 2 brainstorm approaches, and then we're going to talk about community resource guides and virtual resource maps that you can then share with your communities. So here is option 1, and this is your low-tech option. All you need is a sheet of paper and a pen, or maybe some Post-its if you want to get crazy. So for this low-tech option, either working on your own or as part of that team, you just want to set up 3 circles and then start to write out those partners that are currently in your network in those circles. My favorite way to do it is to put those that you think are most important to the transition process closer to you in the center, so you can really start to gauge who you might need to be communicating more with or building deeper partnerships with. But you can also set up each circle maybe as 1 circle for service providers, 1 for school partners, and 1 for community partners, whatever works for you. You also, of course, you need that list before you get started, right? And so you're listing out here the folks that are currently in your network, and then you're going to set those mini goals for other folks that you want to add to these circles and where you think they might be placed. So really great activity to do with your colleagues. It's really best as a brainstorm because there's folks you might forget, right? So as part of a community of practice or professional development, this is a really great exercise to get you started. So here is your mid-tech option. And again, this one is really good as part of a brainstorm or when you're first getting started. And I used a website called Canva. It's listed here, canva.com, to create this. And all I have is, you can see I have the partners arrayed around the center here, and those are folks that are currently in my network. I also, on the left-hand side, have mini goals listed out, and also partners I still need. So I used that full list of partners that I might collaborate with in my community, or people that might support the students and families that I serve. Whoever's currently in it, I put into these circles, and then I've got those mini goals and everybody mapped out on the left-hand side. I find this is really helpful because it helps to keep everything in one place. And it also helps to hold you accountable for those mini goals as well, to make sure that you're really tracking progress and you don't just have that static list of partners there, but you're adding to it, right? You're moving folks from the goals into the network, and then as new partners come up that you're introduced to or that you start to work with, you can add them into that mini goals section as well. Now, lots of cool ways that you can personalize these. Of course, you can put images in the center of yourself or maybe your school. And then you could change the size of the circles to reflect who's most important to the transition process. Maybe you want to color code and add in circles that are pink or blue, depending on if they're a school partner or a community partner or a service system partner. Totally up to you, but another really great way to sit, again, by yourself or as part of a team and start to visually map out your community network. Okay, once you've gone through that initial brainstorming session and created a visual map, you probably want to put it into some type of product that you could share with colleagues or with the families that you're serving. One really great option is a community resource guide. So I have linked here a resource guide that I created when I was in Tennessee. And what is really great about these is they are fully customizable. So anything in your school, in the service system, or in the community that you think is important to include and could help the folks that you're serving, you can include here. There's no rules, right? You can organize them any kind of way. So think about things like utilities, employers, parent support groups, school clubs, anything at all, again, that you think could support these families is really great to include. And these can be living documents too, right? You can go in and you can continue to add resources and update this on an annual basis. And my favorite thing to do with these was to share them at IEP meetings and maybe highlight the resources that would be most important for that family that I was meeting with. But I know that people really appreciate kind of having that one-stop shop of resources with phone numbers, websites, maybe information about eligibility and the services that they support right there in that one guide. So if the community resource guide seemed like something that maybe you already have in place or it seemed really reasonable, I'm going to challenge you for just a moment to think about what I'm going to call a high-tech option, but it's really easy to use once you get started. And that is creating a virtual resource map using Google My Maps. Now, this is different from the Google Maps that you probably use in your car. This is a different application called My Maps. I have the link here, but this is a really cool way to create searchable, more interactive maps for families to use. And you can share it. You can share a version that's not editable, but what's really cool is you can work with colleagues virtually to all be working and collaborating on these maps at the same time, adding resources that are out in your community. They're also a little bit more customizable than the community resource guide. You can put videos into, so you can see here where this image is, you can also have a video there. Maybe when somebody pulls up the link to vocational rehabilitation, there's a video about VR, or you can add your own images. You can also, I won't go into with this presentation, but you can create maps for individual students based on the services that they use out in the community, or maybe friends that they go visit or places that they work. You can also, the text is editable, so you can add social stories and information about how to get places. Well, a whole lot of different things that you can do with these, but at the most basic level, you can add and tag different agencies and supports out in the community. And then folks are able to search and see what's close to them, and maybe email you to add places that they know about. So really cool way to engage families and students in the transition process. And again, a really awesome living document. So I'm going to go through kind of some basics that you can come back to. And then I'm going to walk you through the first very few steps of developing a map. And then at the end, I've got my contact information if you want to reach out, maybe get more info or learn about an upcoming training that you could attend to kind of do a deep dive into these maps. Okay, the first thing that I will tell you is that this training and these first few steps probably won't give you everything that you need to successfully create your first map, but never fear. There are tons of videos and tutorials out on the web that you can go to help you learn how to create a Google My Map resource map. You can also reach out to me. My contact info will be at the end about upcoming trainings that I'll have where you could learn more about how to create these for different purposes. But couple of quick tips I'll give, and then we'll get into the steps. The first is that you can add up to 10 different layers of resources to these maps. So think of these as like buckets. Maybe you want to add all the employers that you're working with out in the community, or maybe you just want to, again, tag those service providers. Maybe you have a student interested in food service, and so you want to tag all the restaurants that are out there so they know their options. Lots of different ways that you can use these. At the basic level, you're going to be using them to maybe post on your classroom or district website or to email out to families, a version that they can view and interact with. You can also create base maps, so don't think that you need to create a different one for every single purpose. You can put all the general resources out in your community on one map and then just copy that and duplicate it for different students, maybe so they could customize that map. Especially right now during digital instruction, it's a really great way to have students get involved in adding to their own maps, maybe places that they want to work or services that they might need in the future or places that they want to go to college. They can start to tag and create their own transition maps that you could grow over time through the transition process. I get really excited because there's a lot of different ways to use them. But at the most basic level, we are just creating a map of resources to share with families and colleagues. So let's go through how to do that. Okay, step number 1, you go to the link provided here, www.google.com/mymaps. Once you get here, you're going to see what you see on the left-hand side here. There'll be a red tab that says create a new map, and you're going to click there, and then you're going to see what's on the right-hand side. Now, you can enter anything you want there. You can enter your school, you can enter your city. Maybe you're doing this at the state level and you want to just enter a state, but that will take you to the area that you want to start to navigate. You can always drill down or pull back, but that'll get you to your initial area where you want to start your map. Okay, so now you are into your map and you're going to see what's on my screen on your left-hand side. This is where those layers or buckets live. So where you see the words Community Resource Map Example, for yours it should say title, and you want to just click in there and then add the title for your map. Whatever you want to call it, you enter there. Then where you see job readiness and employment, academic readiness and success on your screen, those are layers. So I talked about how you could add 10 different layers, so you want to keep that in mind because it can sometimes feel limiting. But you can add up to 2,000 different resources under every layer, so should be more than enough. Now when you want to add a layer, you see where it says add layers here, you just click there and it'll let you add a layer. If you want to share your map once everything is built out, you just click where it says share and you can list an email address and you can state whether you want it to be viewable or editable. You can also get a link that you can add to a website so that folks can just click on it and go to this map. You can create your own organization for the layers. So if you create some and decide you want them in a different order, it's very easy to drag and drop. And then you want to add your resources underneath that layer. So one thing to kind of keep in mind is wherever this blue bar, if you can see that on the left-hand side there, wherever that blue bar is, that's the layer that you're currently working in. So just keep that in mind so maybe you don't add a resource to the wrong layer. But again, you can always just drag and drop. Now, let's talk about how you can get these resources added in. Okay, so we've looked at what those layers look like. Now, how do you get a resource added in? Well, you've got this little search bar at the top, and the easiest way to do that is to type in what you're looking for or type in the address. And then once you hit enter, you'll see this little box pop up. And you can click, if it's what you're looking for, add to map, where you see there in that little purple box. And that will add it under that layer title. So in this case, I'm adding under job, readiness, and employment. Now, when you have a resource added, you just highlight it on the left-hand side. And if you want to customize what that resource looks like, or the icon, for example, here are some handy tips. So to change the color of the icon, you can click on this little paint bucket. It will also take you to an area where you can change what the icon looks like. So maybe you'll use a book for the library, or you can use a car for something that's transportation related. Lots of different options as to how you can customize an icon. If you want to add a picture, you just click on that, that little camera there, and you can upload something from the web or something from your computer. You can also add a video. And then if you want to add text, maybe about eligibility for that service or additional information about who to contact or reach out to, you just click on that little pencil and you can add all sorts of text into the box there. So lots of ways to customize once you tag that resource, additional information that helps bring it to life. So as I said, this is really just the first few steps to start working with Google My Maps to create these virtual resource maps. But really excited, I hope you can see the possibilities. We also have a sample map to share with you. So if you take this link, put it into your browser, we have a sample map of Cape Girardeau. You can go in and explore and see what we've had added, and hopefully it can inspire some of the things that you might add to your own virtual resource maps. I really hope this has been helpful. We went over some tools, a couple of different ways that you could start brainstorming your resources and creating a visual map. We talked about community resource guides as a really great way, pretty low-tech way, right, to create a product that you could share with families or colleagues, maybe post to a website. And then we covered virtual resource maps, another really great way to create a product to not only are you mapping these networks, right? But then you're sharing that information out to really benefit the families and the students that you serve. So with that said, thank you so much. And please reach out to us if you need support. Our information is on the next slide. And we look forward to seeing what you create.